Right, that's the recording button correctly pressed now so that we can send out a recording of the webinar after we've completed today. So good evening, everybody. My name's Gavin Preston. For some of you that have heard me speak or have met me, fantastic to have you on the webinar this evening. A great group of people, and a couple of are just joining us now, which is fantastic. So as the title on the screen says, double your business, how to scale with certainty. This is something that I'm incredibly passionate about, and I'll share with you some stories of track records of what we've been doing with our clients. And specifically, the reason why I'm so passionate, I want to give you a little bit of background for those, particularly for those that may not have heard me speak before. So I've got over 2 decades of experience building performance within businesses, large and small, growing the capability of those businesses and the profitability of those businesses. I started off after qualifying as a chartered accountant with KPMG, which gave me fabulous experience going into different businesses every week and working out what makes a business tick or not, as the case may be. But the thing that I've always been better at or most fascinated about what the bigger picture, what are the differences that make a difference in a business performance, and particularly the people's performance within that business. So that's led me to study extensively in the fields of behavioral change, strategy, marketing, both online and offline, persuasion and influence, and that performance improvement. And always looking for what are the things that will help an individual, a team, an organization address and create the issues that can create the issues. I'm just going to say you're supposed to be able to see just what I'm sharing. So I'll just double check around the PowerPoint. Does that view, can you just see the presentation screen now? If you can just let me know, Caroline, just let me know that she could only see all the different split. Can you now just see the actual presentation screen? Caroline, can you just let me know, is that sorted now? Is that problem being sorted around what you can see in terms of my screen? That's fine. Sorry, Caroline?
That's fine.
That's fine. Great. Thank you. Right. So sorry about that. So from working with a lot of different businesses, both in large corporates and in small and medium-sized businesses, I started to notice patterns that demonstrated the things that were taking place that were either inhibiting growth or were becoming real catalysts for growth in an organization. I also became very, very passionate. I've grown from a background working in small and family businesses. My dad set up his business when I was a little boy, and he's still running his business now. And so it's been a part of my flesh and blood for the whole of my life. So I've been very passionate about helping businesses grow. But really, what drives beyond that is that for those of us that are running our business, it consumes so much of our world, our lives, and we put our heart, our flesh, our sweat, our blood, and our tears into our businesses. And yet I see so many business owners that are not getting the results that they desire or the results that they feel that they deserve from the progress of their business. And ultimately, my mission, my purpose is to help people grow their business, but through creating a very different reality in their business, help improve the quality of all aspects of their life. So through the vehicle of their business, doing real changes in their business and helping them make a bigger impact on the markets that they serve, I'm also having a big impact ultimately on other aspects of their life. And that's what really drives me. 2 years of a national speaking tour with HSBC gave me a great experience of over 5,000 business owners across 84 events up and down the course of the UK. And again, I learned and saw patterns about some of the things that were really working, that were helping growth, and also the things that were blocking growth. And I'll be sharing some of those insights. So as well as blue chip names, high street names like the United Nations and HSBC, Carphone Warehouse, Ford, I've worked with a number of small and medium-sized and high-growth businesses, and you'll hear some stories about some of them right now as I go through the presentation. So just a little housekeeping. Geniuses at work. You all and every one of you are. So please can I have your sort of phones put into silent mode or even better switched off. Can I put your do not disturb sign up at the door so that I can share with you as much of and as much value as possible. So what are we going to be doing specifically? As a result of the tour that we did over the last 2 years, I identified, because I asked the question at every single event that I went to, what are the major things that are holding back growth in your business? And I identified the three key blocks for growth. And we're going to be covering those, but also how those blocks really are stifling growth, what they've become and what they've turned into. But then I want to build on those and come up with effective strategies to address each of those three blockages. And for one or two of you that may have seen me speak recently in Bristol, there's more content that you won't have seen before that I've added into this webinar to add even more value and give you some more kind of meat on the bones about those strategies that help you move beyond those blockages. Then you're going to find out how you can go into depth with these strategies and get your very own blueprint for growth. And I would like to give you an opportunity to get your own questions answered. So when you stay to the end, we're having a Q&A at the end, and the questions that you put in there are entirely up to you. They can be about the content that I've just shared with you, or if we can open up the mic and get you actually asking your question live on the webinar, and it could be a question regarding aspects of your own business growth. I spoke at a networking dinner last Tuesday evening in Bristol. Yeah, this time last week, and actually, the presentation was very well received. But the questions afterwards was some fantastic debate, and I was asked after the questions, do you like those? Do you like being put on the spot? Would you rather not have questions? And I went, no, for me, I love it. I love that opportunity to answer the very particular thing that you're grappling with, and then being put on the spot and having to think on the spot and to be able to share with you ideas and strategies that will really help. So please use this opportunity while I'm here on the webinar to grab your questions, put your questions in, whether it be about the content I'm about to share with you, or whether it be about another specific aspect around your business's growth. So these are real world results. I talk about W Business, and we have a program called that name, W Business, with the core promise. And the core promise is, over the course of the time we're working together, a year, what we want to be able to do, we have a 6-month version now, but we over the course of the year when we worked with this gentleman, Kirk, the goal was, what do we need to do to double his business? Now, Kirk's a fantastic business. He initially started off in retailing of protein supplements and supplements for gym goers, a growth area, a very dynamic area in the marketplace right now. And we took him from 18,000 turnover a month to 100,000 turnover a month, and still growing. That's a 5.5 times growth in 14 months. He went into contract manufacturer. He built his distribution network in the UK. He's now looking to build out his distribution network in the Middle East as well as Europe, and looking for opportunities into the US as well. This guy's on an exponential growth curve at the moment. And we not only helped him with the strategy to do that, but as his business was growing, and particularly at that rate, there was more than a few moments of the 8-9 o'clock phone calls at night. What do I do? What do I do about this? So that could be around a cash flow challenge. Or that could have been, Gavin, I've just got this cracking deal opportunity. Help me prepare for that negotiation. And if it happens, Gavin, how am I going to implement it? Help me plan out and think through what the implementation and the kind of integration strategies of these opportunities will be. Kirk's a fantastic action taker and implementer, and hugely driven, and he has achieved a phenomenal result. Meet Jamie. Jamie is a fantastic guy, again on a growth curve, a huge growth curve at the moment in terms of the growth of his business. The business is called The Studio People, and it's a family business. His mum and dad set the business up some 30 odd years ago, and as a result of the program, one of the key outcomes from the program, as well as doubling the business, was equipping Jamie and his brother Joe to developing their skills and capabilities so that mum and dad can pass the keys over, so to speak, at the appointed time. The rate of growth of both Jamie and his brother, well, the numbers are there on the screen, speak for themselves and are phenomenal. They've grown 2.3 times in 12 months, a phenomenal rate of growth. But also the journey that Jamie's gone on and continues to go on is fantastic around his own personal and professional development as he's shaping up to be a very effective leader and entrepreneur, and he'll certainly in his industry. He'll be a force to be reckoned with increasingly over the years to come. They build studios, so whether it be professional studios for radio stations or Sky and people like that, music studios in colleges of music and universities, and also private personal studios for high net worth individuals, whether they want a studio because it's their hobby or they are a recording artist. So the things that I'm going to share with you are born upon not only my study and research, but importantly on experience that I've applied, and this application has delivered results of the nature that that I'm just sharing with you there. At the core of what I do, I have an operating system. I call it the strategy compass. I developed this from all the time of going on not only course after course, but most importantly, 20 years of every single week, often more than once a week, I went into a new business, whether that was a large business or a small business or a medium-sized business. I had a great privilege to be able to do that, and I started to spot patterns, to see the things that would have to happen in order to create accelerated growth and consistent and accelerated growth. And the culmination of those patterns, or the codification of those patterns, is this business growth model that we put together called the strategy compass. I won't go into it in a lot of detail, but I'll give you a very quick canter through, because this is, as I say, the operating system behind the results that we deliver. At the heart of every business that's achieving great stuff in the marketplace right now are those that are passionate about who they're serving in the marketplace. They're up to something other than the short-term pursuit of profits. So whether that's Virgin wanting to revolutionize the customer experience, or Apple wanting to create insanely brilliant products, or Facebook and WhatsApp wanting to connect the world, they're up to something. You know, Elon Musk wanting to revolutionize transport and energy and move the world from off fossil fuels, for example, and create human civilization on Mars. There's a bigger purpose that achieves two really, really important functions. The first is they stand out in the marketplace, that they're up to something, and potential customers are attracted to that. And importantly, talent in the marketplace, employees, team members of the future are attracted and drawn in to want to be a part of that. You just imagine working in SpaceX for Elon Musk. You know, many of the people that are working there just want to be a part of the team that colonized Mars and created a civilization on Mars. It's just phenomenal. But it gets a phenomenal amount of dedication, amount of creativity, and really pulls out the kind of best of the best in people. So purpose is absolutely the core. Then mindset, absolutely critical. You know, I was asked actually a couple of days ago, what are in terms of the businesses and the stories that you've got where you've doubled the business, what are some of the, one area, if there's one area of your 6 that have made the biggest difference, no, what is it? And I said, well, it's very easy to see actually, not only with the ones that have completed the DYB program, but the ones that we're working with right now, is the ones that we've made a real shift in mindset, where we've lifted their aspirations of what I call the art of the possible, and we've lifted their aspirations and given them practical tools of what they can do on a continuing basis to be able to deliver the results. Then we get clear on outcome, where you're heading. We build a strategy, your own personal strategy that will deliver on that. Then we look at what do we need to do around building capability and capacity in your organization to deliver on the increased growth, backed up by action and accountability. So let me dive into the 3 most common things, that the barriers to growth that I came across when I was touring the UK for 2 years doing the speaking tour. The first one was that so many of the business owners in the room got stuck in a rut with their thinking. We've heard that phrase, carry on doing what you've always done, and carry on getting what you've always got. But what was interesting is what a lot of business owners were doing from the way they were looking at their business was they were so busy head down in the busyness of the day to day, they weren't standing back and looking at the marketplace. They weren't paying attention to the strategic trends happening, nor were they looking for opportunities for them. And they were just carrying on doing a little bit more of what they did before. More of that in a minute. The second thing that was genuinely holding people back, and this phrase I kept getting, is we cannot get hold of enough of the right people. We cannot get hold of enough of the right people in order to enough talent, enough a skill base in order to be able to grow our business. And then funding, insufficient funding to fuel growth. Quite ironic, given that we were in a workshop that was put together by HSBC, but individuals there in the room were saying they weren't able to get hold of enough funding to fuel that growth. Now, whether that was to a cash flow to be able to fund the growth, or whether it was that any kind of strategic investment in order for capital expenditure. So those observations, stuck in a rut with a thinking not enough of the right people and insufficient funding to fuel growth, actually became beliefs. Because this is the language I started to hear back. Moving from my observations, it moved from being an observation to hear clear language. We're stuck. Everything that we do doesn't appear to be working. Incidentally, what they were doing was a little bit more of what they did before, but we're stuck. And as soon as you convince yourself that's the situation, your brain won't work effectively. More of that in a moment, in a bit later. Second one, not enough of the right people. That became a belief of, well, we can't find the people we need. So that could be in a geographical area, or it could be within a particular skill set. But as soon as you say you cannot find the right people, words of Henry Ford, whether you think you can or whether you think you can't, you're absolutely right. And that, again, puts up an unnecessary barrier in terms of your thinking. I only had that conversation last Friday with one of my clients. We won't be, where we are based, we will not be able to attract people of the right caliber, of the right skills and talent. So first thing I've got to do is to eradicate that belief. Otherwise, that will be true. And then the third point, insufficient funding to fuel growth, becomes a statement, well, we just haven't got enough cash to grow. So the obvious conclusion is we can't grow. And that's what keeps the business stuck. The phrase, same old thinking gives the same old results is very, very true. And that's why mindset is really, really key. Now, if we were to talk about an investment of £1, and I was to show you how you could take that investment and you could double that investment, would you be interested in that opportunity? I'm sure you would. If I was to show you how that £1 investment could achieve 2 times, 4 times, 6 times, even 10 times or more growth, would that be interesting? I'm sure it would. So what I want to do is share with you lessons that I've learned, many of them mindset lessons from the ultra high growth entrepreneurs. These are the kind of people that the 7 lessons I'm going to share with you. When I spoke in Bristol, I only shared 3. There's 7 lessons I'm going to share here from ultra high growth entrepreneurs. These are the people that had a back bedroom startup and they got to a situation of £40 million in about 4 or 5 years. Phenomenal exponential growth in their business. And what are the common things that I learned from spending time and interviewing and studying these people? Well, before I go into those, I want to sort of set a context. And that when people think about planning, when they think, right, what should we do in the future? We grew 8%, 10%, 15%, whatever the number might be last year. Where do most people look first? Well, you'd think they'd look to the future. Well, in actual fact, they don't. They look to the past. They look to the past and ask the question, well, what did we do last year? What did we do in the same quarter of last year? And from that position, they project forward, they plan forward. Well, where do you end up? Where do you end up when you plan forward from last year? Well, you actually end up back in the present, but pulling a whole lot of assumptions along with you. Because if you look into the past first and said, well, we grew, say, 10% last year or 15% last year, and you project forward on that basis, you're implicitly basing the assumption or basing your thinking upon the assumption that what you achieve this next year is aligned to what you achieved in the last 12 months. So, yes, if nothing changes, if the market doesn't change, your product or service doesn't change, if your marketing strategy or spend doesn't change, the people around you, the amount of activity you have around sales and sales conversations, innovations are in your service, and the list goes on. If nothing changes at all, then your results won't change. However, if any one of those factors changes, like you improve your strategy, you improve your proposition or your offer to the marketplace, you enhance your product or your service or the service that you deliver to your customers, you improve your marketing strategy, and you get out there and you become, because of the activity that you're doing online and building your profile and your brand, you become a go-to provider or person in your niche, in your marketplace. If you've identified actually where your key point and differentiation is, your area of true brilliance, and you're basing and building your market around that, so you're shifting your business in a marketplace from playing around being price competitive and being a commodity, yet another Me Too supplier, to working and operating in a whole new space, or as the author says, your own blue ocean. More of that in a future conversation. So if you drag all that baggage with you, this progress is slow. Because if we said, okay, we're going to grow, we did 10% last year, we're going to grow to 15%, grow by 15% this year. Well, how do people get there? Well, they just do a little bit more of what they did before. They do a bit more of what they did before. They get the people to work harder. They push more transactions through all the systems or through the factory. They spend a bit more on their marketing, for example. They try something slightly different with their marketing. But by doing a little bit more of what they did before, they get incremental growth. Probably a lot more tired people as a result of that, but they just get incremental growth. Now, sitting down with these entrepreneurs, those that have achieved the exponential growth, one of my first questions has always been, how is it that you have achieved that back bedroom startup to £40 million business in 4 to 5 years? And the answer that came back consistently was, they think differently. They think 10x. They ask themselves, whenever they set themselves a goal, I want to grow by 10%, they then say, well, how would I grow by 100%? I want to put another million in terms of turnover on the top line. Well, how would I put another 10 million on the top line? I want to increase market share by 5%. How would I increase it by 50%? You get the idea. Now, here's the point with this. In order to get that 10x growth, can you get there by doing a little bit more of what you've done before? No. You can't get there by doing a little bit more of what you've done before. In actual fact, by entertaining the idea that you're going to have 10x results, you've achieved a 10x goal, you have to think fundamentally differently. I call it transformational thinking. Because the kind of strategies that will get you there look very different than the kind of strategies that would have got you that slow single-digit growth, that's incremental growth. Thinking 10x gives you that exponential growth. Now, by the way, does every single one of those entrepreneurs who ask the question, how do I create 10 times the level of result, do they get that? Does every single one of them? No, of course they don't. But they might get 5 times, 2 times, 1.5 times the level of growth that they had previously. Well, that's significantly better than getting an increment, 15% growth or an incremental 5% growth. So asking yourself the question about how do you create 10x growth leads to a shift in your thinking, but also leads to a potential challenge. Because I'll just come back to that slide in a second. What happens to a lot of people when they start to think about their goal is they go, okay, I'm in point A here. I want to get to point B. Well, if point B represents 10 times the level of growth, how am I going to get there? Well, I would have to do that and that and that and that and that. And before long, before they realised it, what they've ended up doing is building this brick wall in front of them, with each brick representing yet another thing they have to do in order to create 10 times the level of results, the 10x goal. So if somebody achieves 10 times, if somebody achieves that brick wall, that sort of level of a barrier in front of them, what's the emotional response? Well, it could be exasperation, or indeed it could be overwhelm. How on earth am I going to do it? I haven't got the time, the people, the resources, the cash. And so what's the human response to overwhelm? Actually, we shut down. We do the head in the sand and we do nothing. So what actually, the second question I asked the high growth entrepreneurs was, if there was something else that you did that had helped you deliver on the 10x goal, what was it? And the statement read back, the answer back was, well, we plan backwards. We plan backwards. In actual fact, what we do is we go to a state in our point in our mind, we imagine we've already completed the goal. And then we look backwards from that. But just to point back to this slide here, if you stand at point A and you look forward and you've got all those bricks or barriers in the way and you get to the point of overwhelm, one of the side effects or impacts of that overwhelm could be doubt. How on earth can I do it? Have I got the resources, as I've already said? And ultimately, the most fundamentally dangerous question that as human beings we can ask of ourselves is, am I good enough? Am I good enough to get there? Now, here's an interesting thing, a trick of the mind, that when you stand at that future point, point B, and you imagine in your mind's eye you've already achieved the goal, you pat yourself on the back, you've done it, you've got the 10x result. At that moment in time, as you feel in your mind's eye and your whole sort of visualization, you feel you've done it, what happens to that doubt? Well, it just evaporates, doesn't it? So what happens is, from that point of it's the trick of the mind, in terms of the doubt starts to evaporate, you just ask a very important question. What was it we did to get here? What was it we did in order to get here? Now, the interesting thing is that if you were to stand at the left-hand edge of that scale in month 1 and your plan from left to right, and let's say it was a 5-year time scale, a 60-month time scale to get you 10x goal, for example, if that was a 60-month time frame, stood in month 1 of 60, you could think, wow, loads of time. And however, when you stand in month 60 of 60 and you look back, and you stand in your mind's eye and look back, what was it we did to get here? You will make different calls of what needed to be done by what time over the course of that, over the course of the time frame. Now, when you plan backwards, it certainly gives a level of urgency around the things you need to get done by when to increase the chances of you absolutely achieving it. My third question, or my next point that I learned from the ultra high growth entrepreneurs was, what are the other things that you're doing? Tell me what's the next thing that you're doing that is achieving that level of phenomenal results. And they are ruthless with their time, in fact. Absolutely ruthless with their time. They got very good at one 2-letter word, which is no. And they've got very clear in their own head that every time they say yes to somebody else's goal, they're saying no to their own. Every time they're saying yes to somebody else's goal, they're saying no to their own. So they're very, very focused about what they need to do. And in so doing, they block time out in their schedule to work on key strategic things that are really going to move the dial forward in their business. So many business owners are stuck into the day-to-day busyness, or as Michael Gerber will talk about in his book, The E-Myth Revisited, he talks about being stuck in the technician, doing the do of your business. But what makes the real shifts forward are those people that block out the time. One of the gentlemen that I was speaking to that did the back bedroom startup to a £50 million business in 5 years, he was saying, in answer to this point in his question, he said, well, every month I take half a day out and I go off in the bus. I was like, the bus? What do you mean, the bus? He said, I go off and we have a little VW, an old style VW camper van that I allow the staff to use during the festival season, during the summer, as a staff perk at the weekends. Wow, cool boss. Anyway, I take this camper van off, and their business was based in the Peak District, and I go and I park up on one of the car parks that the walkers use on the side of the hill. And he said, I pull back the door on the side of the van, I make myself a brew, and I get this big A3 sketch pad out. And he showed me his A3 sketch pad. He said, Gavin, it's brilliant. I can't get a mobile phone signal up there. I can't get any emails, any texts, anybody knocking on my door asking me for something. Clear, uninterrupted time blocked out for me to think. And I think about where do we want to get to in terms of our goals, and I'll share that, and where we got now, where are we now, what do we need to do in order to be able to get there? So he blocked time out and he said to me, actually, Gavin, I do this, if I can, once every second week, so once a fortnight, but certainly without fail, once a month. So somewhere between 12 to 18 times a year, he spends half a day thinking and working on his business, when many business owners don't even manage to find time to do that once in a year. Then another key trend that comes out loud and clear is those, early bird catch the worm, those that are getting up and going into the day before most, and getting into the office. Like one of the guys on my DYB program now, he is regularly, not every single day, but he's regularly in the office by 5 a.m. Now that might be a little bit hardcore for many people, but his business is growing phenomenally. Granted, he'll leave by 6 in the evening and he'll go and do a session in the gym, but he's making sure that before most other people arrive in the place of work by 8 o'clock in the morning, he's got some really good quality work done at the beginning of the day, at the time of day when he's at his best. Now, you remember I told the story of the guy with the VW camper van and his A3 pad. Not only was he looking at where do I want to get to and where are we now, but he also asked the question, how can we use technology to get there quicker? How can we use technology to get there quicker? This has been another key trend for those businesses that are growing exponentially, is the application of technology and the systems that sit behind it in order to be able to deliver a product or a service quicker to customers and in a more effective, seamless way. So the greater introduction of technology, and for example, one of the presentations I do, and I love talking about, is some of the key strategic trends and how that's going to affect business and what the impact it can have on your business, and importantly, opportunities that gives you. There's a key thing, a key element of that, a major element around the future growth of technology, and importantly, the opportunities. Another key trend is lesson number 5, tunnel vision. The absolute sole focus on that goal. So let's say it's the 10x goal or the bigger purpose, like building a community on a civilization, a community on Mars in the world of Elon Musk. But it's a tunnel-like vision on and focus, unwavering focus on that goal, and then doing whatever it takes in order to be able to get that. Now, the next lesson is a really pertinent one to many people when they've got businesses where they're maybe not getting the rate of growth that they want. They feel that they've hit a bit of a plateau. This came out time and time again in my conversations, is there comes a time when you have to jump. When you've been swimming in a small goldfish bowl, as the image would say then, but you've got to step up and play a bigger game, to mix my metaphors, but you've got to jump. And at first it will feel as if it's very scary, very intimidating, that when you're making that jump. But actually, if you do, you might have the odd bump on the way as you're doing, and you will undoubtedly have bumps on the way in that journey of growth, because the path to growth in our businesses, as much as we would like it to be a straight upward line, isn't. It's actually a bumpy line that trends in the right direction, but on its journey, it has its own peaks and its own troughs. But if all we're doing at the point of wallowing in a trough, for example, not making a shift, not making a change, or even worse, giving up, then now's the time where we've got to be double down and double check on that our strategy is right. But then we've got to make a jump. Then we've got to put ourselves out that side and go for a bigger goal. In actual fact, talking to these entrepreneurs, many have used the same phrase, which has been, it's easier to achieve a 10x goal than it is a 2x. So it's easier to grow your business 10 times than it is to double. And why is that? Because you get out of your own way with the 10x thinking. Whereas if you're going for a small incremental growth, you're back into your own limiting patterns of thinking and your own limiting mindset. And then the final lesson that came from the conversations that I've been having was consistency. The idea about the compound effect. So it's little things that we do, the 1% course alteration now kept going over time can have thousands of miles of difference. So the things that we do on a consistent basis is who we become and what we do. So it's really important to set up habits, to set up rituals. So hopefully, that's just part of what I'm going to share with you, but just put in the chat box whether you've got any key ahas, which of those 7 lessons around 10x rule, I think 10x, plan backwards, block time, make the most you can of technology, have tunnel light vision and do whatever it takes to get there, be prepared to make the jump, and then consistency. Which of those really resonates with you? Just put it into the question box. And before I move on to the next part of what I'm going to share with you. Just take a sip of water while I wait for your answers to come in. Great. So the point around consistency. Thank you very much. Yeah, that's so easy when we start off a new regimen or whatever it might be to quickly get out, whether that be going to the gym or health or exercise or dietary, whatever it might be, or getting into the office early, getting to your place of work early. Consistency is a key one. So yeah, absolutely. So next point that I wanted to share is that if we know that a new mindset will deliver new results, yes, there are those 7 lessons that I've just been sharing with you. But the danger is, what do we do on a day-to-day basis? What do we need to do consistently? Well, when we start to ask ourselves the how question again, there's that darn brick wall, that barrier that can get in the way. So how do we overcome that? Well, we need a model, we need a formula, we need something that we can apply on a consistent basis. Remember, we are who we become, what we consistently do. We need a model to be able to do that. So at the heart of the strategy compass is mindset. And when we delve down deep into the mindset, we have a model that we call Strive. That there are 6 steps, 6 things that you can do on a regular basis that will achieve a phenomenal shift. Earlier on in this presentation, I said, if there was one element of the 6 around the strategy compass, which was the one that's made the single biggest difference in the performance of the businesses that have done the W business and those that are on track. Actually, we've got one guy at the moment who's on track for quadrupling his business. The biggest shifts have been the ones when they've been applying the 6 steps of the Strive model. And I'll share with you in a moment how you can find out more about that. That's what's been driving a fundamental uplift, an exponential uplift in terms of performance. So what I want to do now is I want to move on to the second observation and therefore the second belief. Not enough of the right people, and therefore the belief we cannot find enough of the right people. So this sits under the whole piece around capability in the strategy compass. Now, if you're going to build a high-performing team, here are, we become who we consistently hang out with, and that includes the people. It's actually important that we build a team of A-grade players, that we surround ourselves by A-grade players. Now, this is easier said than done often, but over time, if you can swap out D-grade players for A-grade players, it will have a consistent impact upon your business. A wonderful quote I heard once was that the people that we surround ourselves with will either make us look better than who we really are or will make us look worse than who we really are. The people that we surround ourselves with will make us look better than who we really are or make us look worse than who we really are. So I want to share with you some ideas about how you can increase the proportion of A-grade players in your team. So most people see recruitment as a point of, we're struggling, we desperately need somebody, we better put an advert out there or go to a recruitment consultant. We got a couple of recruiters actually on the webinar today, I can see from the list, and indeed one of the companies that we're currently working with on the W Business Program, who we're on track for doing significantly more than double the business with them, is they're in the recruitment space as well. And what they do in terms of this particular client of ours, they're providing temporary workers to their clients. They're using the recruitment is their business and it's an ongoing campaign. We don't just put an advert in the paper once or on Facebook once or Google Ads once, expecting that to provide us enough leads and enough business for a long period of time. Of course not. What we're doing, we will have a marketing campaign or an advertising campaign. So instead of waiting till the moment when we're hurting the most, when we're absolutely desperate to get somebody else in to join the team, and then going out to looking to recruit, we should start early. You see, one of the risks is when we're desperate for somebody to do a job, the first person that comes along that is half decent, we're so tempted to give them the role. Oh, my goodness, you've got a pulse. Great. Here's the job. You'll do. And of course, putting the wrong person in that organizational sort of gap in the organizational chart can cause you a lot of cost, actually, and stress and hassle in the short and medium term if that's a wrong fit in order for in terms of your business. Another very, very powerful strategy as part of seeing recruitment as an ongoing long-term campaign is to build your substitutes bench. You may not yet have a role available in your business, but you may know it's really important to keep an eye open and keep your ear to the ground that in your marketplace, who are the really top players? Who are the people that if you were to ask others in your industry that who's the best salesperson in this space, who's the best creative person or engineer or whatever the skill set might be, who's the best networker in this place, who's an absolute whiz in terms of digital marketing strategies, whatever it might be, then go out and find them and take them to coffee, take them to lunch, find out, start to build a relationship. Now, you may not have a role for them at that stage. They might not even be ready to move to your business at that stage for where they are in their career. But if you met with them about once every 6 months for something, 2 or 3 times over a 12 to 18 month period, you're building that relationship. Now, here's the thing. When you do get the opportunity in your business, when the role's there, you can fund that right person, you're already on their radar and vice versa. You are more likely to create the circumstance or the situation where they come and join you because you've done your selling job. You've done your recruitment job really well and marketed the business and the opportunity to them over a period of time. Building a community. One of my clients that does a lot of work around bringing in the recruitment space actually achieve something very, very interesting. They have people ringing them on a regular basis, looking for opportunities of all of the other people and recruiters in the market space. What is it that they do that has that massive attraction or pull that brings the talent, the best in the marketplace, to want to come and work with them on their assignments? Because they put a lot of energy and a lot of effort into building a sense of community. Hey, we're tribal creatures. We love hanging out in groups, whether that be family groups, whether that be sporting groups, clubs, shared interests. We'd like to feel that we have an identity, that we're part of a community and we're part of a club. And when they actually build a powerful community with a real identity, it's not only is it attractive to bring people in, it's helping massively in terms of retention, and also it's helping build aspirations that what else can individuals achieve once they're in such a positive and nurturing community. So I want you to think about what is it you're doing to build a sense of community, not only actually within your team internally, but also within your customers and within your core customer and client group. How are you building a sense of community there so people want to carry on being a part of it, so people want to carry on and still work with you, be a part of your business, or be a customer or a client of yours? Positive reinforcement is so important in order to be able to get the right level of performance. And what is it that you're doing to catch people doing things right? What is it you're doing when somebody's doing something right is to give them that acknowledgement, give them that positive feedback. Yes, I'd like you to do more of this. Yes, I'd like you to do more of this. Working over the last few years, I've done with a series of management teams within KP Snacks. One of the exercises I would show with them around the importance of catching people doing right, the importance of positive feedback, was was a clapping exercise, and I'll just quickly describe it. So typically used it after lunch, a bit of an energizer. But we would get one willing volunteer to step outside the room, and we would decide what we wanted them to do. Now, here's the thing: they were not going to get any verbal or written or gesture-based instruction or spoken instruction at all. The only feedback they were going to get was when they took a step in the right direction, the group would clap them. And as they took more and more steps in the right direction to take the right action, the clapping would get louder. So we'd decide for them to do, maybe to pick up a particular bottle of water and pour it into a particular glass, or take a coat off the back of one particular chair and place it over the other side of the room on another particular chair. Or it might be pull up a certain blind in the room, water a plant, those kind of things, but relatively complex things that in terms of when there is no verbal, written, audible instruction. It was staggering that with precise feedback, when somebody took a step in the right direction and a step in the right direction, when they got, just do more of that, please, just do more of that, please, just do more. It was amazing how quickly 30 seconds, 90 seconds, they worked out what it was that they needed to do, what they needed to be able to do. So fascinating, really works, really important in terms of catching people to do the things right. And then provide a development path. Top 2 reasons why somebody leaves the company that they're working with. Number 1, the boss. And number 2, they don't feel that there are enough opportunities for their own personal and professional growth and development. So provide a clear development path and be working with them on their own development pathway. So if you're going to grow your business, we've just been talking about one aspect of that, which is the people. That sits under the capability, the southern point on the compass. Again, that how question comes in. Well, how do I grow capability around people? How do I grow capability around cash, around systems, around time, for example? So again, in order to be able to do that, we need a formula. We need a process that we can follow. And one of the things that we share on the W Business program is the 5-step process, the scale process. Kind of convenient that it comes out spelling that word, but the 5 steps that you can do in order to be able to scale your business. And what I want to do is I want to equip you to take a step up in your business. I want to equip you to go on a trajectory that's more of that upward exponential curve, a 10x curve, rather than that snail-like curve. So I'm doing a 1-day event called Double Your Business Bites, a powerful 1-day workshop that's going to take place in Bristol on the 3rd of November or in Cardiff on the 6th of December. I know for some people that will represent travel, for others on the webinar here, that's relatively local to you. But 2 locations that cover kind of the Southwest and South Wales, 1 day in your business for just £67 plus VAT. So the third thing I'm going to share with you, final thing, belief. We haven't got enough cash or funding to grow our business. Insufficient cash to fund the growth. And Susan's on the webinar, which is great. Susan has a fantastic business, and her skill set has been put to use with a number of our clients in helping to broker, helping to find funding sources for clients that are going through growth phases. A fantastic access to high net worth people and all sorts of funding different mechanisms. But first of all, just a thought I want you to think about. What are the changes you've seen in the places you can raise cash from? So if we rewound the clock and we went back 10, 15 or so years, people would go to the bank, wouldn't they? But now, the banks are moving higher up the food chain in terms of working with bigger businesses where the services and the financial instruments that they can sell will give them a greater margin, and are less interested in the small to medium-sized businesses. So then crowdfunding or peer-to-peer lending platforms has seen a big rise over recent years, as you will know. High net worth individuals who get virtually little or no return at all in the money markets for their cash want to be able to put money into businesses and to back business opportunities where they've got a better chance for a return. So there's a very buoyant and active business angel or investor marketplace. Again, these peer-to-peer platforms or crowdfunding platforms help to facilitate that. So the marketplace around funding is changing. There are arguably more sources of finance now than there was before. Yes, you've got to have a very clear business plan, and we help clients with that, and a clear strategy. That's core to what we do. You've got to have a clear strategy and a growth plan about how you're going to raise your money, how you're going to grow your business, and what the fund's going to be used for. But there's plenty of business owners as high net worth individuals or sources of funding where people are looking for a good opportunity to invest in. So what I often ask a question is, just have a list as many ways in which you can bring extra cash into your business. What I want to do is undermine this belief, absolutely undermine the belief that we can't get enough cash. We haven't got enough cash. So I've just listed here 22. Only 22 because I didn't want to try to make the slide even more busier than it already is. But different possible sources of bringing cash or money into your business. Personal investment in terms of cash, whether it's money that you have in terms of personal savings or family savings, or it could be selling key assets. If you've got that Aston Martin that has been your pride and joy, but actually your business and launching your business or taking that bigger leap is something that's more important to you. Then, selling key assets, selling the beloved Aston Martin in order to be able to take that big leap. But personal cash, family, friends, the good old overdraft, loan, crowdsourcing or peer-to-peer lending platforms, invoice finance and discounting, manage your cash flow better, so collect debt quicker and pay suppliers slower, offer early settlement discounts for payment up front or early payment. Supplier finance. We're even seeing in the marketplace now, for those that are trading, for example, a lot on the marketplaces such as Amazon and eBay, that Amazon, eBay and PayPal are offering loans to their biggest customers. And it's one of my clients recently, just a half an hour application process and £40,000 was in his account within hours. Phenomenal. Of course, Amazon in that case see the throughput through their account from the selling on their site, and they've got the security of being able to tap straight back into that revenue source to be able to provide their security to their borrowing. Great tax planning, sale and lease back, selling of personal assets, business angels I've just been talking about, high net worth individuals, venture capital, equity investment, either externally or from members of employees, members of the team, a fire sale of some of your products, or increasing sales to existing customers by going through and looking where your upsell and cross-sell opportunities. Now, that's just 22. There are more. When I've done this with groups before, I think we've come up within about a 10-minute exercise, we've come up with over 50 different ways. Remember one group, we came up with 51 and the 51st was rob a bank. I suggested that wasn't really a good long-term strategy. It could be a little bit career limiting. But that aside, the point what I want to make is it is not a lack of cash. It's a lack of creativity to access that cash. So if we can shift our thinking from the belief we haven't got enough money, we can't fund to growth, to then saying what are the things that we shift the belief to know there are plenty of sources of funding. So what do we need to do to tap into it? You need a clear strategy. You need absolutely the right mindset in order to be able to do that. You need the right team of people and right capability around it. And you need a track record of action and evidencing your progress. In actual fact, I was reading something in a LinkedIn article actually over the weekend, and one of the top investor and VC was basically saying the traits that they have looked for more and more to show correlation within the end results, the investments they back that will come good. And that's the mindset and the drive and passion of the individual that's leading that business. Their passion and their vision, their mindset and their drive has been absolutely crucial and key determinants or key indicators of the level of success of that business. So in the one-day event that I mentioned, the W Business Bites Day that we're running in Bristol on the 3rd of November and the 6th of December in Cardiff, I want to address a number of things. Currently, is your business delivering the results that you really want? Are you like that snail that we saw in an earlier slide where you've got incremental growth? Actually, let's go to the point. Do you want to double your business? Have you got enough of the right caliber of people on your team? Well, what I'm going to be sharing with you on the day is the latest strategic trends. Some of those are technological trends, but importantly, how you can take advantage of them. Too many business owners, because of the natures and the demands of the day-to-day business, of running their business, their heads down operational. They don't get enough time to lift their head up and survey the business landscape and also see what's coming over the horizon. It's really exciting stuff that's happening, but within that, there are a huge amount of opportunities, and we've got to be able to ride that wave. I want you to be able to identify the real things, the genuine things that are holding you back. One of my current clients at the moment, he'd got several opportunities, as in major contract wins, and his question was, what if they all landed at once? And he entertained that as if that would be the case. And do you know what? He went into a flat spin. He went into that overwhelm, that brick wall that we talked about earlier on. I couldn't cope with it. There's no way I could do all three at once. And therefore, he didn't take action on any one of those opportunities, so none of them came true. I didn't let him get away with that one. And we soon addressed that issue, and the opportunities have come in thick and fast. And yes, not all of them landed at once, but 2 landed in quick succession. The 3rd is still in the pipeline. But we still worked out how we were going to build capability in enough time. And his business has already doubled in less than 6 months. And he's in the food industry. His business has doubled in less than 6 months. And we're on for a quadruple your business target in the 12-month time frame. I'm going to share with you the mindset stuff, that 6-stage process, the strive process, things that you can do on a regular and consistent basis in order to deliver consistent results in your business, to create that exponential growth curve. And I want to share with you, the biggest question that often a lot of people ask me is how, and it's all questions around capability. So I want to share with you just dive straight in around the scale process. What are the 5 things you need to get right in your business in order to be able to scale your business? And what will you get? Well, you're going to get clarity, but you're going to get a clear blueprint plan that you can apply to grow your business. You're going to get actionable steps that you can implement right now. As soon as you've completed the day, I want you to go away and implement and do things. And importantly, unless you're energized, you're not going to do anything with it. I want you to go away inspired and energized so that you go away and you take immediate action. So I mentioned that it's just £67 plus VAT to come along for the day. That level of development that you're going to get represents, that as a sort of no-brainer investment. For those of you that come along to the day, what I'll also give you as a bonus is a copy of my Strategic Compass Lite program. It's over 70 minutes of training that takes you in detail around the Strategy Compass and shows you how you can apply each of those 6 elements of the Strategy Compass in your business. And for those of you that are here on the webinar tonight and you sign up in the next 24 hours, including those on the recording, then I'll allow you to bring along complimentary a second person from your business, a colleague, or it could be a business acquaintance or contact that you think would really benefit from this. You can bring a second person along for the same price. So all for £67 plus VAT. So pen and paper out. Not only note the date down, the 3rd of November and the 6th of December, but this is the link to book and reserve your place. So it's bit.ly, so bit /ly/. Now this is case sensitive, so capital DYB, no space, bytes with a capital B and small letters for small lowercase for ITES. So DYB bytes with the DYB and the being capital letters, the first B being a capital letter, and the rest of bytes, the ITENS being lower case. So bit.ly /DYB bytes. Click on that, go to that page now, and you'll see a video with me talking about the event. You'll get a full breakdown and detail of what we're going to be covering. You'll see the locations in both Bristol and Cardiff, and you'll see a link for you to reserve your place on the programme. And already we've got a growing number of people for both events. I spoke to 2 gentlemen this morning that were saw me speak in Bristol. Incidentally, there's as a result of they both decided to come to the same event, and they're both looking to do business with each other, and this event is going to help facilitate that. And that's something that I do within the whole community of people that I work with. Susan's already on the webinar. I introduce business to her. I look across my community to be able to think, who can I introduce that will have mutual benefit to help businesses grow? And I know some of that is going to be taking place with the people that are in the room. Hey, time to be spent with like-minded people. So just while you're making a note of that, or maybe you've clicked and looked at that page to be able to reserve your place, the next thing I want you to think about is questions. Have you got any questions around the content? Any questions that were around the content that I've shared with you today, or specifically around your own business? You might be grappling with an issue or grappling with a problem right now within your business. And here's an opportunity. It's 8 o'clock on the dot, and I wanted to cover the content by 8 o'clock. So we've got 15 minutes left up to 15 minutes left to take any questions, and for me to be able to add value to your business or ask any points of clarification. So Caroline's there looking for the questions coming in, and going to be sort of fielding me with the answers. Sorry, not sure I'll be coming with the answers. We'll be fielding me with the questions. So please just put your questions in. Caroline, just let me know either through the text box or or via your voice if there's any questions that have come in so far.
Well, I thought, Gavin, while perhaps people are thinking about any questions, if I could perhaps kick off with one I received earlier from a lady called Rachel. And what she said, she sent me an email, and she said, Gavin, you talk about doubling your business. What, in your experience, are the key characteristics required for somebody who can do this?
Do you know, this is a brilliant question. I love the answer to this one because it's what I've observed. Or, what I love to do is success leaves behind it a trail of clues, and I love spotting the patterns. I was saying that at the beginning of the webinar, and I noticed some very, very clear patterns. Everybody that's been through this program has had significant, and is going through the program, has had significant growth. Some have had growth of 25%. Some have had growth of 50%. Some have had growth of 62% and a 70%. Well, actually, they're all phenomenal growth rates in the marketplace. Business that's growing 62% plus, 60% plus is phenomenal. But others have doubled, grown by 5.5 times, by 2.5 times. Others are on track for quadrupling. One's even got a slim chance of doing more than 5. With the landing, if they can get the funding piece right, actually could be landing something in the realm of significantly more than 5 times growth in the 12-month period. And do you know what I noticed? For those that are achieving double their business or more, 3 things that keep coming out time and time again. 3 qualities. And I was sharing these actually this morning as well with a gentleman on the phone, because I've just said inadvertently, you've got 2 of the 3. And then he mentioned the third one. I said, you've just nailed all 3. And those are, the first one is they're competitive. The gentleman that's coming along to one of the events, his hobby is a boxer. The people that who have achieved the best are either through their sport or through back previously in their life or their career. They've been incredibly competitive, and they still are competitive by nature. So the first quality are those that are absolutely determined and competitive. The second quality are those that have really embraced the personal development journey. I'm going to be improving and working with you on your inner world that will have an impact on your external world. So I recommend books. We use books and as part of the program, and I'm recommending podcasts and audio books, YouTube videos to look at and to watch, people to follow and to check in, resources to fuel our brain and our mind, and to educate us so that we can apply it in our business. Now, some of the people on the program, the ones that have achieved their very best result, have been like sponges, and they've absorbed and applied and then got actually as hooked as I did, even from the age of 15 in this whole area, and are off and flying. I want to build that capability within you where you've got that thirst for learning and knowledge about how you can do things differently, how you can improve and make a bigger difference to your marketplace. So that those that embrace the personal development journey and the mindset piece is the second quality or criteria. And the third one is they've got a burning platform. They've got a big enough reason why. So it could be, they've just passed a magic birthday, a significant birthday, and they've said, "Hey, clock's ticking. I've really got 10 years or 15 years or whatever it might be in order to make this, in order for me to deliver a level of financial wealth." They want to put the children through university, or they've got some really pressing issue, got to provide for their family, fed up with the cash flow challenges and not being able to provide a standard of living for themselves and their family. But they've had a pressing enough reason about why they're going to grow their business, which has driven a level of commitment. So the first thing was the competitive. The second one, they really did embrace full on the personal development journey and implementation of the mindset stuff. And the third was they got a pressing reason, a big enough reason why, which has driven a level of commitment. Thank you for the.
Thanks, Gavin. I'll let her know that you replied to the question when I sent her the copy of this presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Anybody else got any other questions? An opportunity to ask anything either relating to the content or with respect to any other elements of the business, of challenges around growing your business or opportunities around growing your business? Don't be shy.
Gavin, there's a question there from Susan.
Yep.
Okay, the mindset issue is a huge area. What things do you think 10x entrepreneurs should do to help support that shift, to support their positive mindsets?
Okay, great question. So what mindset is huge, just to paraphrase that, what can 10x entrepreneurs do to support that mindset shift? I think it's at two levels: to support it within themselves and to support it within their teams. And the first answer that applies to both of those is consistency. It's about getting into the daily habit and the ritual. And that's one of the things that we cover. In actual fact, the R of the Strive process is around rituals. It's around the habits, about getting into work. We all have habits that we do automatically. You get in from work or from your business of an evening, you'll go and, certainly in the winter, hang your coat up in the same place. You'll put your keys, if you've come back, travel by car, in the same place. You'll go and kiss the kids or whatever it might be. But you'll go through a ritual. Well, the mindset stuff, one of the things that I've noticed is the 10x entrepreneurs are doing it consistently. Those that get an early peak and progress, start doing it, see the impact, and just get busy in the day-to-day and don't make it enough of importance. The obvious analogy here to use, of course, is the you go to the gym once, or you go to the gym on a consistent basis. The second part, so the consistency about applying the mindset tools is really, really, really crucial. And there's several of those that I share, and feeding their mind on a regular basis with the stuff that they read, the stuff they listen to, and stuff they watch, that cultivates, that nurtures that sense of hope, of optimism. If we read the stuff or listen to the stuff going on in the media at the moment about how the UK government is handling the Brexit thing and the likely impact on the business, you might as well just close the door and hand back the key right now. So it's really important to tune that out, look for opportunity in a marketplace, and feed yourself with the stuff that heartens you, that builds hope, builds aspiration, but also keeps you attuned and key to the opportunities. The second level is to help create that consistency within your teams. So how do you create fun with your teams, and how do you create some of these mindset opportunities so that it becomes part of the daily practice within the workplace? How do you create little rituals in at work that you give positive reinforcement to, that creates a shift in the culture? This recruitment business that I've made reference to on a couple of times, the impact of the shift in the business owner's mindset has had a massive impact on the thinking and the approach and the language that their team members are using, and they're using with their clients and prospective clients. So consistent application yourself, make it a ritual, and then embed it on a consistent basis with members of your team. Any other questions? Any other questions? Well, I just want to say thank you very much for your time and your attendance. It's been a real pleasure sharing just over an hour with you, sharing some strategies that I hope you'll be able to go away and apply right now within your business. I'd love to be able to have the opportunity to serve you further. I did this in Bristol on the 3rd of November, and in Cardiff on the 6th of December. Just a one-day event in order to be able to create a real shift in the thinking of your business, real powerful shift in the thinking of your business and the strategic planning of your business so that you can really drive the level of growth. It's been a real opportunity to serve you. If you've got any further questions, by all means, get in touch with me. Here are my contact details. So gavin@gavinpreston.com is my email address. You've got my mobile phone number there. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. More and more stuff is going on there on a weekly basis. So it's Gavin Preston 1. Follow us on and like us on Gavin Preston Growth Strategies. LinkedIn, it's Gavin Preston. And then Twitter, it's @Gavin Preston. So I look forward to seeing you on one of the DYB Bites workshops. And if you've got any questions, by all means, get in touch with me afterwards. We've recorded this presentation, so we'll be emailing out to everybody a copy of the recording so you can review it at your leisure. It just leaves me to say thank you very much for your time and your attendance this evening, and I wish you all the success in the growth of your business. Have a good what's left of your evening. Good evening.